Hello, everyone, and once more, welcome back to another episode of Chinet. Today we have a very interesting guest. So our guest spent almost 3 years controlling every second of 250 performances at Kingdom of Dreams. He was the showrunner for Zangura, which I remember visiting when I think I was in engineering, and honestly, we were college friends, and it was probably one of the most aspirational things we did back then because going to Kingdom of Dreams and watching Zangura was perhaps something which only the elitist could have done in the during that time, and it was the first show which I ever saw in the live entertainment space, and our guest was the showrunner for that. So, Circle of Life. But and he also worked with IFA awards, and he's worked with the best people in the live entertainment industry. I think that's the kind of career most people only dream about in the industry. And surprisingly, then he quit. And a few years later, he was actually standing on Shark Tank India, pitching squeezable honey. And interestingly, again, all five sharks made offers. And what we're here to talk about is not the Shark Tank pitch. What we're here to talk about is that what happened between those years, and what how is he trying to bring honey back in the back as a lifestyle product. How he's working on distribution. There's a very interesting topic on distribution which we're going to discuss today, and how Honey Twigs came into being. So let's call Jigar to the stage. Hello, Jigar. A very
Hey,
warm
hi
welcome to
Rachit, how are
China.
you?
I am doing
Thank you
very
for that
well.
lovely introduction.
It
Brings
is
back memories
it
of
is
Kingdom
well
of Dreams for
deserved,
me.
and yeah, I
It
think
definitely brings memories back for me from Kingdom of Dreams.
me too, honestly, because I still remember, I was really small, and I still remember going for that. It was
Hmm,
the thing in if you're in Delhi, or I think if you're in North India, it was the
correct,
thing to go at that time. Let's
correct.
start. Let's start with that. You've been backstage running one. I can say it was India's biggest entertainment event, right? And
At that time, yes,
at
there was
that time,
nothing
yes,
like
of
it.
course, there's
Yeah,
nothing
it
like it.
was
It
the
was the first
premier
of its kind.
destination for live events.
Of course, yes. And then the Zangura, IFA awards, all of that.
Correct, correct.
What was it like while you were there, and what made you walk away?
So my background before that was primarily a lot in theater and live events. So
Mm-hmm.
before I joined Kingdom of Dreams, I had a 10-year experience in theater backstage, live events, and I worked as production crew on two or three films also. So, I had that affinity for stage before I joined Kingdom of Dreams. Then I went to London to do my master's in marketing and communications. And when I came back, KOD had just opened and they were looking for a showrunner. So while I was in London, I had interviewed for the position and I got selected, and they just said, like, you'll have to come back to India ASAP.
Right.
And thankfully, my master's had finished. So I just made the move. And, I mean, I came for a vacation and stayed for the entire period. So it was
Wow.
like that.
Wow, we've seen people move out of India for a role which they want. There
Right.
are very few people who come back for a position,
Right.
right? Usually people come back. I've seen stories of people coming back to start something of their own, and but for a
Correct.
role, it's not very heard of. And then what made you walk away at that time after
So, I
after
mean, I had done almost 2.5 years of running the show there, and
right?
I did some great events like IFA,
Of
GMA.
course,
I was the showrunner for an event called IFA Rocks in Toronto for 2011. Then there was the FIA Awards, which came to India during the F1 racing. So I was the
right.
showrunner for that. A lot of town halls for big companies like Make My Trip, Vodafone, NDTV, etc., etc. Then, there comes a point where you're looking for something to grow into, and you just ask yourself, now what? I didn't get an answer back then at QD of now what. So I think I got my answer in the form of, I think it's time for me to leave and get into better avenues, and see where I can grow further. And
Right.
while I was at my university, I had done my dissertation in honey. And that project was always in the back of my head because my professor had written that it's a project that don't let it go to waste. Try and convert it into a real business. So that sort of stayed with me while in the last few months of my tenure at Kingdom of Dreams. I'd already started researching and seeing things as to explore and what I want to do further. So yeah, I mean, I think that was the point where I was like, I think need to start something of my own. So that's when I just quit KOD and I started researching about Honey, the stick format, all of that, the machinery, because I was not from that space.
Right.
So I had to put in a lot of research, understand the processes. And thankfully, my father used to deal in cosmetic raw material. So as a child, and his core product was beeswax, which is the hive of the bees itself, and the byproduct was honey.
Oh,
So
interesting.
we used to have a lot of, the beekeepers send us big tins of honey, and
Mm.
there was an extra crop, or like just as a gesture. And I still remember as a child, all me, mom, and dad used to sit down with a cloth and just filter that honey because it came raw from the apiculture
Right.
hives and all of that. So I had that affinity for honey in me growing up. So yeah, that's the reason I jumped into this. And I also saw a gap in the market because no one had actually innovated in the space of honey. A maximum we had
Right.
reached was from glass bottle to a squeezy bottle. Nothing beyond that. So
Right.
there was a gap, and we said, why not? So yeah, that was the whole story of from Kingdom of Dreams to diverting into Honey
Right.
Twigs.
Into honey. That's very interesting. So as you said, you did that dissertation when in college, and you were
Yes.
there. Yeah, then but you did not start right then. So it's for our listeners who are in college right now. I want you to ask. I want to ask this question. That what was the reason that you waited for 6 years to actually start?
I think not 6 years actually. I quit Kingdom of Dreams in December of 2012.
So 3 years.
So yeah, so 3 years. And so because I was not from that space, I had to learn a lot of things myself, perfecting the machine. I mean, um, I would say I was lucky enough to be taken for a ride by a lot of vendors because that taught me that what correct things were. I
Wow. You were
remember
lucky to be taken for a ride.
yeah,
That's
I mean, you don't learn it otherwise, right? Till the time you
right.
don't put your hand into the fire, you don't know that this is hot and it'll burn you. So, burnt a lot of hands here and there, and a lot of people took undue advantage because I was not from the space. Even in terms of just getting the machine correct. Our first machine was so bad that we actually sold it for scrap.
Wow.
It used to give us leaks. The product was not perfect what we were looking for. Then we kept researching, found another vendor, and honey is a tricky product, right? So you can't sort of overheat honey because it goes bad.
Yeah.
So every point has to be like a thermostat control. You can't heat honey directly. It has to be in a water bath. So all those things we had to take care of, and these were lessons that we were also learning as we went. So
Correct.
I mean, I still remember when we got our new machine and we had received a huge order from one of the biggest cafes. We used to manufacture and we used to have leaks because we used to put it in holding. And then we realized that our compressor was not correct.
Yeah.
So it's not just the machine, but the ancillary that goes with the.
Right.
So I think to perfect everything till 2016, we were still struggling. And then we sort of came to where we are today. But yeah, in 14, I started alone. And in 15, my partner joined me, Paris. And me and Paris were sort of classmates in our masters. So that was like a good backing we had. And we had a good rapport between us also as friends. So what better to start a company with a friend and a classmate who we've known for years.
Of course. Of course. My classmate, my college friend, is my co-founder.
Oh, okay. So
He's been
see,
my yeah. It's a
similar story.
similar, and we've known each other
Yeah,
for almost 11, 12 years now.
correct.
So I did my post graduation with him, and
Ah, okay,
it's the
same.
best. It's the best
Yes,
co-founder matrimony which you
correct,
can have.
correct.
Right. So if you could go back, would you
Mhm.
start earlier, right after college, or would you still want those 5 years of, of space?
I think if I didn't know anything about that subject, it is better to put in that research to know what you're building
Right.
firsthand, because when you build and then you start learning, I think that's a reverse curve, because then you don't know how to resolve issues, right? So as we were going, we were also learning when any problem happened. And, like I said, I'm not from an engineering background. It was just a passion.
Right.
So like today, I know everything about my machinery that runs in my factory. But
Right.
back then, I was also learning. I had instances where I put my finger into where I was not supposed to, and
Oh
it
God.
almost got crushed, and I took my hand out in time. So, these are, and being taken for a ride with the wrong machinery, these are things that teach you. These are lessons when you grow and learn. So I think those were very important, and I don't think I'd change anything um, unless if I was an engineering background person, which I'm not. So I don't
Fair.
think I'd change anything.
Fair. So for our listeners, if you're in that industry and you're studying for that industry, then it might make sense for you to
Right.
start right after college or and even after post graduation, for example. But if not, then
I
you
think,
need
or find correct people who can help you build what you're trying to build. Me and
correct.
Paris both were not from the industry. So I think we were learning as we went along.
Right, right, absolutely. That makes sense. With honey,
Mhm.
and I think this comes from your own research that it has three problems. It's messy, it's not portable, and it's very hard to trust the quality of honey people are
Correct.
consuming. So how does Honey Twigs solve? I think portable is very clear. It's the packaging itself says that
Right.
it's yeah, it removes the messy and portable part, I would say.
Correct.
How do you solve for trust?
So for trust, the main thing is the quality of the honey that we procure. Whatever honey comes into our facility comes with a certificate of analysis from a lab. We have a single point vendor who has an in-house lab, and he gives us a test report also. Plus, what we also do is, as a precautionary measure and just for our sake also, we pick up a random batch every 6 months and send it for testing on various parameters as laid down by FSSAI,
Got it.
and sort of corroborate the reports as to are we getting the correct material or not. And also, when we work with bigger cafes or QSRs, they do a lot of quality audits in our facility.
Of
So
course,
that
yeah.
also helps us maintain our quality, and keep all processes in check. So yeah, I mean, quality is also built over a number of years. It doesn't happen
Yes.
in a overnight pattern. So when we launched, a lot of consumers did ask us, is your honey pure or
Mm.
whatever, are you mixing it with something? And when we say no, they wouldn't take it on face value, because we weren't a legacy brand who was already
Right.
present in the market. So then, all these test reports would help us. We always have kept it transparent. Till today, we tell our consumers or customers that, if you ever have a doubt, there's a batch number written behind the product. Just send us the batch number, and we'll send you the certificate of analysis of that particular batch, so you know what you're consuming.
Super, super. So every
Yeah.
batch you make sure has a certificate of analysis from like
Correct,
a
correct. No,
lab
so a
and
lot of companies, like, let's say, bigger clients of ours, they require, as a norm, we
hmm,
have to give the
right,
COA when the material is supplied
right.
to them.
Fair. Yeah,
So
that makes a lot
yeah,
of
and
sense. Yeah.
when we are also exporting now to 9 countries, so when we export, it also goes through stringent checks, because the importing country has a certain norms of importing the product, and it has to match their values. So it's not
Correct.
just in India; it's internationally also. So we also get it checked here for exporting out of the country.
Right, right. Fair. Yeah, that makes sense. And let's talk about plastic neutrality, right? Because a lot
Sure.
of brands now are doing, you know, are ditching away plastic, saying that it harms the environment.
Right.
You, of course, do sell it in plastic sachets, but you say that you're plastic neutral. So, what does it mean to be plastic neutral, and how do you do it?
So, firstly, why do we pack it in plastic? Because
Right.
I feel today it's the most versatile material that is available.
Mm-hmm.
And for a product like ours, I could not have opted for any other material like glass or paper
It will not
or
work.
anything. It
Yes.
would not
Right.
hold the product. Also, if you see, every product has their nuances, and it stresses the environment, right? If we Glass is made from silica, which comes from the sandbanks. If you're
Right.
using too much of glass, silica is extracted, sandbanks are exploited. You go shift to paper, trees are cut, recycled paper, all of that. Plastic, too much plastic. But so we realize that if we have to deliver product, it has to be versatile.
Hmm.
Also, plastic has a quality of barrier property. So in food, the freshness of holding that freshness is very important, right? The So plastic has a barrier property where oxygen cannot sort of interact with your food material,
Correct.
so it keeps it fresher for a longer period of time. And that's where over years, if you see, food packaging has evolved into plastic.
Right.
There is glass as well, I'm not denying that, but everything has a plastic version also.
Correct.
Also, during transport, glass has a lot of breakage. So that means loss of food, and plus you're paying extra money for fossil fuel, right? So
Right.
1 kg of glass versus 1 kg of plastic. The weight difference is tremendous.
Absolutely.
And the way the logistics works, we all know they throw our cartons, packages all over. So, there's a lot
I've
of
seen those
breakage.
videos. Yes. I
Yeah,
think
there's a lot
everyone's
of
seen those videos.
breakage.
Yes.
Yeah, even your e-com parcels, if you see, sometimes they come badly damaged, bruised, battered.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes the product also gets damaged.
Hmm.
So it was like a conscious effort to go to a material which would address all these things. Now, when we are using plastic, we wanted to understand how can we reduce our impact on the environment. We know
Right.
that we are creating waste landfills again. We are another company who's jumped into the bandwagon and has started packing things in plastic and just left. We initially started to look for an environmental friendly solution,
Right.
but unfortunately in India still there is no biodegradable plastic in the food space, and also which has
Hmm.
a longer shelf life that can stay with my product.
Right.
We do have, yes, we have plastic bags, we have bin bags, but they have a smaller shelf life and they're not
Hmm.
food grade certified. So
Right.
we need something which is food grade certified because it comes in contact with food.
Of course.
So what we realized was the plastic neutrality concept was very new when we started back then. There are certain ethical waste management companies. These are private bodies,
Right.
and on their panel they have a team of sweepers, rack pickers, collectors, and all of that. So how do they pay them? So companies like us join with them and say
Hmm.
we sort of count the amount of plastic that we've used in a financial year. So that includes my tapes, my shrink wrapping, my laminates, my lids, my bottles, anything
Right.
that is plastic, right? And we tell them that last year we sort of used approximately 12.8 tons of plastic in our production cycle. And we fund the removal of that much amount of plastic. So they have a
Hmm.
facility and we physically verified the facility. So we work with a company called Recircle. They're from
Hmm.
Bombay.
Hmm.
I have actually been there. On our Instagram page. There are videos of me going there to their facility, and they sort the plastic as to what can be, what goes where. So like
Right. What can
your,
be recycled in
yeah,
what
mobile
way?
oil
Yeah.
cans, they are a certain quality. Your
Right.
other plastics are a certain quality. So like that, they differentiate all the kinds of plastic and they send it to ethical disposal or repurposing or
Hmm.
recycling. So at least you're stopping that amount of plastic from entering the landfill.
Correct.
I think if any and every company who deals even in a bit of plastic does plastic neutrality, we will not have this problem of plastic floating around. But because it's a added cost to a company, a lot of companies are not doing it. Um, it's a choice. Again, we do have norms, but not everyone's following it. So at least till we have a better solution, what we can do today is what we want to do. Help the environment, not stress it
Correct.
further.
Correct. Fair enough. I think, yeah, that's it, it's although, yeah, you said that, that it's not required for companies to do it, unfortunately, till a
No,
certain
there is
point,
a
but
rule. So
there
by the
is.
pollution board, yeah, called EPR, which is Extended Producers Responsibility. Now, when this rule was introduced, now imagine a company which has been in existence for 100 years and they've used plastic for almost 80 years out of that. Now,
Right.
how do you calculate the past 80 years of plastic that they've produced? It is
Correct.
physically impossible, right? So, as a company, when we were young, we put this habit in ourselves that let's do it today so we don't have a backlog of clearance.
Right.
When we did our first neutrality thing, we had a backlog of 4 years. So we said, let's just clean that entire 4 years in
Wow.
one go. And then every year we will
We keep
add,
doing it.
yeah,
Yes.
as we grow, our production capacity
Right.
is going to grow. Everything is going to grow. So maybe later on, it might get difficult for us to look at the previous amount of, things that we've populated for the environment.
Hmm.
So let's just do it now. So I think some habits are good when you start inculcating them when you're small, so that when you grow big,
Yes.
it becomes a part of you.
That goes correct for children as well as companies, I think.
Yeah, I mean, brushing teeth, if you start to learn at 18, it's going to be difficult, right?
Yeah, of course.
So
Absolutely. I have a 1-year-old daughter now, and I can vouch for that. So,
yeah, so it's
right.
better when they're small.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Let's get on your let's talk a bit about your Shark Tank experience. You somewhere said that you actually studied 13 seasons of the American
And I
Shark
was a
Tank.
huge fan of Shark Tank US.
Amazing. Yeah, I was too when I was in college for sure. I
No,
used
I
to
still
watch.
watch it. The new
Yes,
season is out. I think the season 18
absolutely.
is running right now.
Right, right. Yeah, I also sometimes whenever I'm traveling and there's some time
Correct.
apart from work and the podcast and the baby, if I get half an hour in a week, then I try to watch it for sure. But but if you go back to that time, when you were actually pitching and all sharks were making you offers,
Right.
what was going in your mind? How was that experience overall?
So, firstly, being on that set was a very surreal moment because, it's like in Hindi, like they say, जो शिद्दत से मांगो सारी कायनात उसको देने में जुट जाती है.
Jit
So, that
Jat.
was that moment for me because I always, when I used to watch Shark Tank, I used to probably mentally think that what would happen if I ever went on the show? Would I have a product that I would be able to pitch and, get a deal out of the people sitting in front? But I
Right.
didn't know it would happen in real. So, I
Right.
think that was my first moment when I entered that set was like, wow, I've made it. You know, actually, what you see on Shark Tank is an edited version. So
Correct.
we were actually inside for almost 1.5 hours to 1 hour 45 minutes. Um, there were
Right.
moments where I had cold sweat. But initially, when you actually enter and you start pitching, that's when you are very like stressed and tensed as to what's
Right.
going to happen. And it's all live. So there are no cuts, there are no retakes. It's one
Correct.
flow, right? Everyone thinks that, oh, there might be a cut, edit. No, it's straight on
It's
question
one.
answer round, bombardments of question, you answering back, and you have to be very very careful of what you say because they catch on, right?
Right.
So you can't give any information which is not true or correct. It'll be caught. Your numbers have to be by heart. If you've seen episodes where their founders have forgotten some numbers or not
Right.
studied the market, so those moments do happen, and also in nervousness they happen.
Yes.
Sometimes you just blank out, right? So, but yeah, as we sort of it went on, we sort of eased into the whole shoot and sort of answering the questions and making them understand what the product was, what our sort of vision is, and where we are today. Uh, it was good that couple of sharks had spotted us. Like Anupam said, he
Right.
had seen us at Starbucks. So that was a good thing
Right.
for us that we were
Correct.
already spotted by people. Everyone appreciated the variants that we had. They really liked the packaging that we did. So overall, it was a good like experience for us, and the deals, of course, started coming in. Everyone started jumping in.
Right.
That was it was at initially when we went in, we were like, doesn't matter if we get a deal or not, we are just going into Shark Tank. Let's just
Correct.
go with that mind
That
frame.
itself
If we
is a
yeah, if we
success
get a
story.
deal, that's cherry on top. So yeah, I mean, it was good that we got the deal
Amazing.
later on.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for our founders, for our other D2C founders who wish to be on Shark Tank,
Hmm.
do you have some steps or a playbook or some recommendations which you would want to tell them?
I think you need to be very clear of the market you're operating in. Be very clear with numbers of your cohorts or or who other your competitions are. Your losses, profits over a period of time. I think numbers have to be correct. And your story has to be correct as to what you're trying to sell. Don't oversell, don't undersell. I
Right.
think maintain that balance and you'll nail it.
Amazing. And for the application, do you have any
I mean, see,
recommendations?
applications open up on their website.
Right.
So I think in May, they launch the application forms for the next season. So right now, I think season 5 is going on for season 6. May or June, they'll open the forms. Just follow their Instagram page. And there are like, when we went, there were 4 steps. So
Right.
initial form was just basic knowledge about the business. Then next was a little more detailed knowledge about the business. Then it was a video pitch that you had to send about the product and who you guys are. Then they call you for an in-person. So at every stage, people get selected and people get
Right.
dropped. So when you get selected, you get selected for the next stage.
Right.
So I mean, if you don't hear from them, that means you've not
You've
made it.
not been selected.
Yeah,
But the
because they physically
fundamentals
don't
remain.
reach out to everyone because there are
Correct.
tons and tons of
Of
applications,
course.
right?
I don't think it's possible for them to reach
Yeah,
out to everyone.
so they always tell you if you get called, that means you've made it to the next.
Hmm.
So then after the in-person first round of interview, then we got the call to come to Mumbai, and we used to go to the studio. We were there for 3 days.
Mhm.
So every day they also have their internal teams who prep you before going on set on the live telecast,
Right.
not live, but like recording.
Right.
But they have a finance team as to what numbers may be asked, but it's not scripted at all. There is a team which helps you in making your pitch. So yeah, it's very unscripted. Everything is unscripted and everything is real, what's happening.
Right.
So
Right.
there is no sort of a script that is given to you that you read from or you
Correct.
mug it up.
Correct. They'll help you in the beginning, but of course,
Yeah,
then
they
at the end of
give
the
you
day,
some pointers,
right?
but it can go
Anyway,
wherever.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think for our viewers who've been seeing Shark Tank, I think they know that it can go anyway.
Yeah.
So
No, but a
overall,
lot of people still think that
yes,
it's scripted, but it's
correct.
not.
Yes.
And it's not a paid activity. Also, a lot of people think that you have to pay to get into Shark Tank. No, it's not a paid activity.
Of course,
It's
yeah.
purely on your
Merit.
business merit.
Absolutely. And overall, like what after Shark Tank episode, the episode aired, there some major change for Honey Twigs that you saw?
That was actually our turning point when we got the recognition from everyone. I mean, because that's like great marketing for you, right?
Right.
So you're coming on national primetime television. We had crazy amount of orders. A lot of people discovered us through Shark Tank. We got a lot of international queries. I remember we did not see the episode at home. We saw the episode in our factory with our workers.
Wow.
And we had prepared them that there is going to be a crazy next 1 month. So just be prepared. No, holidays in the week, and we might be going into overtime every single day. As even before our episode was over, we had already received almost 3,800 orders on our website.
Wow.
While our pitch was going on, it was not even done. And by morning 5 o'clock, I think all our Amazon fulfillment centers where we had put our stock were sold out. But yeah, I mean, it was overwhelming, but it was a great experience. I mean, it just felt like, like it was one crazy ride, one wave,
Right.
which just like carried us forward. So that was like a big boost for us, being recognized. And we still do, like, if people spot our product, there are people who spot and they put it on the gram and Instagram and everyone, oh, Shark Tank product and all of that. In fact, our video on YouTube got 1 million views. So
Yeah.
our episode, our
The
particular
episode.
segment.
Right.
Yeah. So if you look at Honey Twigs video on Shark Tank, it has over 1 million views. So that
Wow.
was brilliant. I mean, I was after sort of when there was a little calm period and we were evaluating as to how much have we sold and where all have we sold,
Right.
except for Lakshadweep. We sold in every other Indian state.
Wow.
Except for Lakshadweep. I mean, even counting Andaman Nicobar, we had serviced orders in Andaman Nicobar. I think there were 8 orders from Andaman Nicobar as well.
Wow.
So that is the reach of that program. And we got queries from almost, I think, 18 to 19 countries internationally.
Oh, wow.
Europe, US, Australia,
Right.
every continent, there was one country who reached out to us saying, we want your product.
Oh, wow.
So we did open up 2-3 countries after that.
Right.
Because it takes time in export, the norms we have to see if we can
Yes.
work there or not. So
Right.
yeah, but it's a great experience. It's a great boost to your business, and it's visibility that you get out of that show.
And you get a brand recognition, right? After that,
correct.
You can then no one doubts your brand.
Correct. I think it's validation that you've made it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. So coming back to the export question, so for our, I'll tell you a small story of mine as well. So my wife I've been a techie all my life, never been in the e-com space as such directly. Indirectly, I've done a lot of things. That's a different thing. But my wife did an e-com. She did a toy brand. Back in 2018-19. COVID then, of course, killed the brand totally. But anyways, at that time we were. She used to get a lot of advice from from Amazon. They give you an agent and and all over that start exporting. India is not the right market.
Correct.
So what do you think for a brand today who's doing like a small indie D2C brand, who trying to
Hmm.
build something out of their home? Uh, at that time we thought that exporting is a is a is a ball game for bigger players, right? What do you think? How's it today? Like, do should small brands start thinking of exporting before they start thinking of their home market, or do you think exporting is the way to go?
No, I think I don't think it's a thing only for bigger players. I think you
Hmm.
can export, and you should look at expanding your market to other countries also
Right.
besides your own. But be very cognizant of your production capacities. Can you
Hmm.
meet the capacity or not?
Right.
Also, you have to take care of the norms of every product in that country. So EU has the most
Hmm.
stringent norms in
Right.
terms of food, cosmetics, or any other thing. Um, you have to be very, very aware of where you're selling and what you're selling. Never export an under uh, quality product, because
Hmm.
once you get crossed, you get crossed. Then it's
Right.
very difficult to revive that market again.
Correct.
But it does help to sell. There are a lot of brands who are selling, who started as an export only unit,
Right.
and then they entered India later. So there are
Correct.
those reverse stories also.
Right.
So, but I think export is something you should definitely look at if you feel that this is a product that can be accepted
Hmm.
internationally. And I think, and I'm going to speak as a founder right now, like sometimes our product is ahead of time for a particular space, but it's already evolved in some other country. So,
Hmm.
like when we entered, the stick format of honey was very young for India, but it had evolved in the US. So like you said, Amazon. So Amazon global
Right.
selling team took us to Amazon US, and they
Correct.
said, this is a more evolved market for you. You have better sales here. So
Right.
we went into the US market. We also opened the Amazon UK market. So like that, there are now platforms who are helping you to grow
Correct.
and making Indian brands into a global brand.
Right. Right. So you should make use of that if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have the
definitely.
capital and yeah.
See, commerce has changed over a period of years. Now
Right.
you have a lot of information, available for you. So I think you should definitely make use of all of that. And
Right.
if you feel you can launch yourself in the export market, go for it.
Right. Hmm. Fair enough. And do you think in the last 2 years AI has changed the way you work or the way your company works?
Definitely. I mean, so in production, we don't per se use AI that much,
Hmm.
but in terms of uh, managerial work, or even for like attendance system. So now we've introduced the AI based platform where they scan your face and everything is given, what
Hmm.
time, when did he come,
Right.
what time did he leave, what is his overtime hours, auto calculation happen. That saves a lot of
Right.
time and effort for your staff who's calculating attendance. So
Correct.
even small processes like these help you save on a lot of effort and time put in by a particular person.
Hmm.
So I think we constantly look for things which can ease out our work, like even in terms of social media now,
Right.
the post creation. There is a lot of AI being used there now, because earlier we had to invest a lot in photo shoots, but there are apps now where you just upload the picture of your product and it creates
Creates
a,
the
a
right.
picture for you to use on social media, right?
Right.
So, and now it's getting difficult to recognize if this is AI or real.
Yes.
So we've reached that point. So I think it is great, but also, I mean, be very careful as to how far you're using AI.
Hmm.
But like I said, in our manufacturing thing, we currently don't have much of AI, but in the other processes we started using AI.
Right. Right. Fair. Yeah. That I think yeah that makes sense. Is there are there like some workflows which you're just irritated you're like this I wish AI could do this and it's still not reached.
I think reaching out to customers and getting your payments out. That is, that I wish the day AI could just pick up the phone and call the person and say your payment's due.
It can, but I don't think the other person's gonna listen. They'll cut the
Yeah,
phone.
but I mean, I hope we evolve there and say, collection of our payments would become very easy then for
Right.
us. The
Of course.
rotation would become faster.
Faster, yeah. Absolutely. In terms of channels, you said like my social media marketing is becoming has also changed. So in terms of channels, what do you think? Like which channel has been the best for you for both like B2B and and D2C? Like, which has been the best?
See, B2B is still very orthodox, I would
Hmm.
say, where we have to reach out to consumers
Right.
and connect with them. But there are now people who facilitate B2B,
Hmm.
like players like Sodexo, Compass, all of them.
Right.
And there are also many more smaller players in the market who are helping the pantry services and all of that. But in terms of retail, I think retail is evolving very fast. From what retail was 5 years ago to what it is today, it is
Right.
completely different. I mean, QCOM did not exist 5 years ago. I think
Of
it's
course.
a COVID baby. It's
Yeah.
a COVID gift to humanity. The QCOM
Right.
platform. I don't know if COVID wouldn't happen, would QCOM ever come in?
Hmm.
I
At
don't
least it
know.
wouldn't have been that big, right?
Yeah,
Like then.
that prevalent as to you're ordering everything. But today QCOM has taken the front. Everything is running via QCOM. Every big company is entering QCOM.
Right.
You have Amazon, Flipkart. Everyone has entered that space.
Correct.
So yeah, but physical sale is still there, but like in tier one cities, I think it is getting hit. But in tier two, tier three, it is like still prevalent.
Hmm.
But Blinkit has reached. I was reading a story where Blinkit is already in like 200 cities now in India.
Right.
So that's a big achievement.
I know. Yes.
And others will follow. One gets in, then everyone will start following.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now
So the
it's
entire
become
landscape has changed.
yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. The other day, we were traveling to, I don't remember, either Munnar or I don't know, like some
Hmm.
like some not a very like not a metro, like a touristy place, and we were
Right.
trying to find a location for the hotel. I had no idea about the city, so I was like, okay, and like we have a daughter, right? So we like that. Okay, we want to be in a place where we can get things. And I was like, okay, the best way to decide a location is go to the hotel and check whether
And
Blinkits
see if
and are
Blinkit's there.
available.
True, true. I mean, today you go on vacations, you keep ordering everything
Of
from
course,
Blinkit.
yes.
Earlier you had to make a list of what all do I need, but now
Right.
you're
हाँ,
like,
like
ye mil jayega
मिल
udhar.
जाएगा
It's
ब्लिंकिट कर
fine.
लेंगे हाँ
I'll get
ठीक
it
है
from there unless you're traveling internationally.
yes of
But
course
domestic vacations, I think life has become very simple.
very simple yeah and it's also sad because then they don't feel so much as vacations anymore
Yeah, but I mean, see, we are getting used to it also. I think it's sort of affected a lot of different things. Like it's a very interesting thing before UPI came in. I don't know if you've read the story that how the toffee business just disappeared
yes
because of
yeah
UPI.
yes
Because that spare change didn't happen. Earlier, you used to get, like 1 rupee candy or one pulse or one something
right
for spare change, right? And since UPI came, that has disappeared. It affected the confectionery market so hard that their sales just vanished.
yeah
And earlier, you could see all the, different toffees that were available. But
right
now you rarely see a jar of candies sitting on a
no
shelf,
yeah
right? So some of those, nostalgia has gone away because
of
of
course
QuickCom. I feel that's my personal thought.
right
But also, going out, checking the vegetables, learning how to buy good quality vegetables has disappeared
yeah
because now you are reliant on Q-commerce and
of
now
course
you suddenly say, "ये ठीक नहीं है, वापस ले जाओ." I mean,
hmm
I don't know
it's
where we'll reach with that. I
yeah
hope it's not for humans कि ये ठीक नहीं है, इसको वापस ले जाओ.
वापस नहीं yeah although
But
there is
yeah,
now you can I was reading the other day that there are researches going where you can actually decide what genes do you want your child to have and modify a couple of things
correct,
here and there
correct.
so yeah
So it is
that's
scary somewhere. Like I was listening to Dipender's podcast,
hmm
and he said now with AI, people are like clicking pictures and showing that our cake was
oh yeah
distorted when we got
yes
them, so we
yes
don't want it anymore. So
right
that is also a scary picture,
and
right?
of
So
course
I mean, if it can be used for good, it can also be used for
use
bad.
for
So
bad
it's like
100% 100% the other
yeah,
day
it's both way around.
yes I was talking to another founder in the AI space on China itself
Hmm.
she does deepfake detection and she was
Okay.
telling me about about such crazy incidences like we hear the big ones right we only hear the big
Right.
ones and then but there are so
Right.
many smaller ones a friend in Vietnam got a video call from her mother claiming something and it was a fake call and
Oh
she lost a
wow.
couple of $1,000 which was like all her life savings right so
Yeah,
so yeah
cybercrime. So
it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're we're
Deviating.
deviating too much. Let's get back to honey.
Yes, yes.
AI still has, for a few years. But tell me something. So stick, generally the stick packaging. It was wild when you guys started, right? Like it was the
Right.
first thing. I remember. I think I must have also seen your episode, and we called for it as well.
Hmm, hmm.
And now there are a lot of companies. A lot of companies are now getting in this space,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So there are two questions to it. So one is for you specifically, that what are you doing, what are you doing to to counter that, or is it helping, is it not? And also a generic question for our founders, right? Like if you're in a space, like you were the first comer, but now
Hmm,
there are
hmm.
big brands trying to get after you. What
Correct.
do you do?
So, I mean, to answer your first question, what we're doing, firstly, I think it's always to be ahead of the curve, be consistent in your quality, and
Right.
keep coming out with newer and better products.
Hmm.
So we are innovating in more variants. We are coming out with a new product also, that is under R&D right now. But when and like initially, we also had that fear that people are creating similar products. But for a product like ours, who did
Hmm.
not have a market space, with these new guys coming into, they're expanding our market space. So
Hmm.
it's a good thing for us.
Hmm.
I look at it in a positive manner. I
Hmm.
don't look at it from the negative connotation. I think that market space is getting bigger. The
Right.
acceptance of that product is there. That's why these players are coming in, right?
Hmm.
So
Right.
it's validation for us that what we are doing is not wrong. Of course, we will be the pioneers of the single serve category. And we will always keep innovating and doing new things.
Right.
Like we launched a very different flavor called Meetha Pan infused honey.
Oh
So
wow.
in the same single serve.
Right.
So initially I thought it won't do well, but it's picking
Yeah.
up now.
Wow.
So it's doing very well. So these things sort of help us keep ahead of the curve.
Right.
And to be honest, most of them are doing one particular product, which has flooded the market, and every brand is doing the same thing,
Hmm.
and we are not following that bandwagon.
Hmm.
So we are keeping ourselves a little deviated from the whole thing. But yeah, just launching new variants, keeping the quality intact is the foremost
Hmm.
target of us.
Right, right. And for other D2C brands in a similar position, or let's say smaller brands who are first in the queue. In fact, not even D2C brands, right? And this would be my last question, because I know that
Anything. Yeah.
we've already launched. So there are, when someone's trying something new, right?
Hmm.
There's this for one question which comes, which we also get asked by our investors, कि कोई बड़ा ब्रांड क्यों नहीं कर लेगा, right? And what would be the right answer for that?
नहीं बिल्कुल कर सकता है, but for them they've built a certain other product which is their cash cow. For
Right.
them to deviate into something smaller which you are building is not viable at that particular
Hmm.
time. It will only be viable when it becomes explodes or becomes big, and they are pushed to enter that category. Otherwise, it's a status problem for them.
Hmm. Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, like, we had bigger brands coming to us and saying, white label for us. But we
Right.
made a conscious decision and said, no, we're not going to do it. Because we were building our own brand. I'm not a OEM, I'm not a white label manufacturer.
Right.
So I could have done that, but I didn't want to do that. It was a conscious decision on our part.
Right.
And I think we shouldn't be afraid of competition. It is going to come,
Right.
it is going to happen. But there are certain things like, I don't know, like in Delhi especially, when Campa Cola initial, the
Hmm.
old phase when Campa was alive, the old people still, they say Campa de de.
Right.
It might
Correct.
be, they might be
Yes.
getting a Pepsi or a Coke, but
Right.
that brand name still,
Right.
you still say surf se kapde dholo.
Of course. Bisleri, like Bisleri,
Yeah,
everyone.
Bisleri
Yeah.
chahiye. You might get a Kinley,
Yeah.
but that
But
brand name has stuck to your head, right?
yes.
So maybe in the future people always say honey twigs chahiye for single serve,
Yes.
so
Yes. Yes.
that is the connection of the first mover advantage, or introducing something in that category very
Amazing.
early on.
Wow, superb. Yeah, I think that's solid, and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
and I think for very inspirational for other brands. Thank you, Jigar. It the last 1 hour has been absolutely amazing for me. I've got to learn so much behind the scenes. What you see is just the tip of the iceberg. You just see a website and products, but yeah, but what goes behind the scenes, and what it takes to build something like that, what it takes to stick to something like that, what it takes to build something which does not stick to is
Right.
not messy,
So
even though
not sticky and messy.
not sticky and messy, yeah, but still stick to that, right?
Right.
So amazing. Thank you, Jigar. For all our listeners, that was Jigar Mehta. He's the co-founder of Honey Twigs. They, as you know, if you've heard the podcast, he was a showrunner, and then he built Honey Twigs, and they were in Shark Tank, and since then they've been expanding. That and this was Chinet. I was Rachit Dragon, your host. Until next time, thank you, Jigar, for your
Thanks,
time.
Rachit. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
It was
Thank you.
lovely having you.
Same here.